in studio because it's going to be an awesome show. And anytime we need an awesome show, I call Dr. Chapa and say, we need you in here. I'm going to kick this on the FM. Feel free to share this out. Let me know if you have any questions. Here we go. Good morning. This is KHEA Radio, 99.5 FM. It's Kickstart. My name's Gardy. I have a guest in studio. I'm going to let him introduce himself and then get into some really fun things this morning. How you doing?
Hey, this is Dr. Aaron Chapa, Living Well Clinical Nutrition Center. Gardy, it's always good to be here. I love KHEA Radio. I love being able to be, live streaming, but I also like to be podcasting, and that's kind of like what we have going on here as well. You can go back and listen to all of our shows. We give people alternatives to drugs and surgery. We teach people how to live better, be better, stay better, one bite at a time. We believe that food is medicine. We believe that you can change your life through changing your habits and your attitude towards food. I had a patient tell me yesterday, I had a salad yesterday, and I said to myself, this ain't too bad. And it's amazing. Sometimes it's perspective. Sometimes it's a matter of learning to add different spices to your food. Sometimes it's a matter of knowing how to just, even use different lettuces. My wife loves putting things like arugula on a salad to just give it an extra little spice from the arugula, or cilantro if you're a cilantro fan, or dill if you're a dill fan. I mean, there's so many ways to enhance your taste buds whenever you're consuming something that's quote-unquote bland. And a lot of foods that we consider bland, like vegetables, root vegetables, are bland. And if you flavor them with good, healthy fats, if you flavor them with good, healthy spices, you can always enjoy the difference in flavor. Like this morning, I put this Hawaiian barbecue spice on my wife's eggs, and she goes, "Ooh, that's kind of nice."
Mm-hmm.
And, because she really just wants salt on her eggs. That's all she wants. And but I just wanted her to try it, and she liked it. One of my kids, I put this like cocoa and vanilla over her eggs, and people go, "You do what to your what?" And eggs, sometimes eggs get old. And people all the time tell me, I'm just sick and tired of eggs. You're not sick and tired of eggs. You're sick and tired of the flavor. We'll change the flavor. I mean, I found that putting cinnamon and vanilla on my eggs changed the whole dynamic of the breakfast. And people go, that sounds gross. But then I go, well, have you ever had French toast? They go, oh, I love French toast. Who doesn't love French toast, right?
Yeah.
Which is basically cinnamon, vanilla, egg, and bread, right? Well, I'm just excluding the bread and just using the cinnamon and vanilla, and the same aromatic flavors come up through your nose, and you get excited about that olfaction smell in your brain, and you go, oh, and it brings you back to the time when you could indulge in just like goobles and gobbles of French toast and never gain a pound, never get a headache, never have a rash, never have a brain fog moment. And then they eat the egg and they go, hey, this sort of kind of tastes like French toast. It smells like French toast. It tastes like French toast, but it's eggs. And so it's just another way to kind of hack the system. So, being creative with food is always what we're about at Living Well Clinical Nutrition Center. We're teaching people how to live better, be better, one bite at a time, because we want you to eat real food. We want you to get back to the basics of real food. We want you to appreciate the power of real food. How about that for a cool triad?
That's awesome. I guess that food is a tool that you can use to definitely change your body, what it looks like, eat more, eat less, change up your diets. And I know you do those kind of things as well. Like, hey, I'm doing this meal plan and just changing some things and see how it's like an experiment almost.
Yeah. My wife called me a food scientist. I think it drives some of my family members nuts that I'm like a food Nazi, like I'm always into food things, and I bring conversation back to food. I can't help it. It's just like when you live it, breathe it, you're passionate about it, you see it, and then you start going, man, like everything's about food. And but I've been doing. She goes, you've been doing that though since I've ever met you. Like I remember, like you were doing Bill Phillips' Body for Life back in the 90s, and I was following his meal plan and guidance workout programs. And so I've always been into fooding. I've always been looking at the idea that food matters and that food can change your shape. Food can enhance your brain. Food can enhance and fill up your muscles, or deplete you on the flip side. So, a lot of times patients come in and they'll say things like, I have not felt well since blank, or and what that means is there's a something shifted, right? And some people go, oh, that's the 30s, that's the 40s. There's everybody can kind of pin it to a timeline, and that's how we blame things on age. But the great Gary Knoll, nutritionist and believer in the power of food, said age is only a number. Why do we blame things on age when it's not about the age? Yeah, I mean, we're all getting older. That's obvious. But does it have to be obvious? Can you be 50 years old and act like you're, 40? Can you be 40 and act like you're 25? Is there a way to feel amazing? I see pictures of people. I saw this fella on, I don't know, YouTube or TikTok or something like that, and he was like 75 years old, but he literally looked like he was 50. He had muscles bulging out of his shirt. He was carrying his groceries down the street, and he just looked amazing. Didn't look 75, And I'm thinking, yes, please. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'll take that.
And, and so when patients tell me, I used to feel good, but now I don't. Or, man, I remember like when I used to be able to perform like this, and now I can't. I was talking with a buddy that's about 5-6 years older than I am, and he said, I was training with my 14-year-old son like I was 25. He goes, I feel so good. He's one, and it's just amazing to see how you can integrate the ideas of clean eating into your lifestyle, detoxification into your lifestyle, and you won't have the story, I felt good, up until this moment, or I used to feel good and now I don't. Mm-hmm. And if that's the case, there could be some other underlying issues, like especially if you're somebody that is into food and you go, man, Dr. Chapa, I eat clean. I eat well. And you're sure of it. Okay, well, I mean, I have to believe you. I haven't seen your food log, so I can't know for certain because, hey, I've looked at a lot of people's food logs that told me that they ate well, and to be deceived. I mean, it was chock full of dairy products, cheeses, and ice creams, and yogurts, mm-hmm. and they said, oh, but the ice cream is dairy-free. And I said, yeah, but the cheese isn't, and the yogurt's not, and those are mucus-forming foods. I mean, you could have one of the top 2 most common food allergies, dairy being one. You know what I mean? It could be the gluten. It could be you have these 4 inflammatory foods running in your body, and you've got enough intestinal irritation that your body can't absorb or break down these foods, and it's starting to actually irritate your GI tract, which then leaves you susceptible to stealth pathogens, infections that are lingering in the shadows. You don't have a raging white blood cell count. Instead, you have a depleted white blood cell count. We look at your blood work, functional eyes here at Living Well Clinical Nutrition Center, and we see that your white blood cells, they're not, antibiotic level that medical doctors call pathologic. They are just below what we call optimal. So we have a narrower scope of lenses that we put these lab ranges in because we're not looking at disease. We're not looking at pathology. Yeah, we see it when we see it because it's blatantly obvious. But when we look through a different set of lenses at our care plans and the cases that walk through the door, we're listening to the story. We're asking deep questions. We're trying to find out everything we can find from head to foot. We want to know everything there is going on in your body and in your timeline of history, so that we get an idea of how long you've been suffering, because that gives us a kind of an idea how long it's going to take to return things back to normal. If we can get you to stick with it long enough and follow through with the recommendations to the best of your ability. These stealth pathogens will literally ride under the radar, though, and they won't cause your blood markers to be completely out of range. So when people come in, we look at their diet, and we look at labs, and we listen to their history, we can get a pretty good idea that they could have some of these stealth bugs lingering in the shadows. It could be, Epstein-Barr virus. That's a common name that people throw around out there. They could have had a history of mono when they were in their teens, and they don't realize that. But I got over that. That's 30 years ago. They don't realize that it's still lying dormant, ready to attack. They could have some pre-existing autoimmune condition that's it's just developing, hasn't manifested yet. They could have parasite infections. They could have yeast infections. They could have, bacterial or viral or a bacterial infection that's just burdening the body. So we are aggressively looking for pathogenic burdens that humans are carrying day in and day out. A lot of these pathogenic burdens are underlyingly like stealing your vitamins, your minerals, your B vitamins, your essential fatty acids. They're irritating the tissues, causing inflammation. The inflammation then goes up. It's another blood marker we like to look at. And interestingly, we run this blood marker it's an inflammatory marker called high sensitive C-reactive protein. And when we look at the high sensitivity C-reactive protein, medicine says, Western medicine, the labs say, anything below 1 is okay. And so it's 1 to 10. I've seen ranges higher than 10. I've seen ranges at 5. I've seen ranges at 3. I've seen ranges at 1.2. But it really, from a functional perspective, we're learning now that we want it less than 0.3. 0.3. And so that means in systemic means throughout. It's like everywhere. It's in multiple cells, multiple organ systems, and that inflammatory fire, high-sensitive CRP, is just a measuring stick of how messed up your cell chemistry is and things we need to do to look at it. So we love taking care of your blood work, and we like blood work within 90 days so that we can at least get a relatively fresh picture of where you're at. Not that it is a fresh picture, because blood work is just a snapshot in time, as most testing is. But at least it gives us a little bit of a start point. All right, well, you were here, and then we need to see if we can move some things chemistry wise, and then let's rerun it and see if we changed anything. And we do that with patients because some people need to see what their chemistry is. I had one lady say, "I don't really want to run my blood work right now because what if it's bad?"
Right. Yeah.
I haven't been following the program as good as I know I can. I said, "Well, it's okay." Some people do these tests, and we use the test as a motivator. Hey, let me use the blood, your current picture, and help you see what you're needing to work on. I mean, if you got a CRP at 1.2 and you feel pretty good, what I find is people come in and they are in the mega inflamed state. They have symptoms galore. And I never run the blood work at this point, but they have symptom upon symptom. They have 5, 10 symptoms that they need to deal with. It could be headaches. It could be allergies. It could be drippy down the back of the throat every time they eat. It could be a rash. It could be some sort of hormonal issue in females. It could be sleep disturbances. It could be joint pains. It could be cravings, whatever it is, right? And if you have enough symptoms, we don't really need, we can run these blood panels and probably should for your own peace of mind, right? But the reality is we can also save you those dollars, and we can just start changing things in your lifestyle. And at Living Well Clinical Nutrition Center, we're a lifestyle practice. We're a wellness practice. We're not looking at just your symptoms. We're taking inventory so that when we make the changes, do we see shifts in your symptom patterns? Do your headaches go away? Does your blood pressure regulate? I had a lady last week doing really well, and she came in, and we made an adjustment or two in her program. Not much, because we like to do things slow with some complicated patients, and we're trying to regulate thyroid and regulate blood pressure for this patient. And I find out on Friday that her blood pressure's through the roof. Like, so I'm thinking immediately, what did I change? So I went and looked at her chart, and I'm like, no, that wouldn't have done it. No, that wouldn't have done it. I mean, I actually enhanced her potassium, and I enhanced her B vitamins, right? So it should have actually calmed things down in the heart. And so I'm like, all right, well, let me call. So I call her because, I mean, I don't want people running through the weekend with high blood pressures. I mean, she's already on, 2 different blood pressure medications, and they're not working. So I'm like, okay, something's up. And I call and I say, all right, did you change anything other than, did you not take your supplements? Did you not drink water? Did your bowels move?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. No, I didn't change. Am I taking my supplements? My bowels are moving. I feel like I don't know what's going on. I'm like, okay, what'd you eat? She goes, oh, well, I don't know, like nothing bad. The minute that you ask them and then they kind of go around the bush and not really tell you, you go, oh, okay. So I got to ask a different question. Okay, well, just take me through what you ate. Well, she goes, well, I didn't have time to plan, so I ate, ate some sloppy joes.
Sounds good.
I'm thinking to myself,
it's been a while.
I'm thinking about Miss Pat back in elementary school slapping some sloppy joes on my tray.
Yeah.
And I go, sloppy joes. I was like, do they sell those anymore? Like, I mean,
in the cafeteria? Where were you over there?
Yeah, like, how did this happen? And no, she goes, oh, it was out of a can. And I'm like, good. I'm like, oh my gosh. Well, I mean, so number one, I mean, sloppy joes is like MSG laden tomato sauce with a little sprinkle of preserved meat.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't even know what kind of chemicals are in that thing, And I'm like, oh, okay. This lady she's A blood. She doesn't do well with tomatoes anyway, but she ate processed tomatoes that were preserved in a can for who knows how long, however many chemicals might have been in it. I didn't ask her what brand. I just assumed it probably wasn't organic, and I assumed that because they probably don't make an organic sloppy joe. I mean, sorry.
I wonder how many brands there are of sloppy joes.
I don't know.
I feel like
Dude,
there's just one, and you have it covered. Like it's just sloppy
yeah,
joe.
that's right. It's just like the same company rebrand. Same company rebrand.
Yeah. So sloppy joe brand. That's it. Just
and then
one.
so now she's got pressure in her head. She's got burning ears. She has a headache that won't go away. And I go, oh man. And now she's taking Tylenol too, so it's more chemicals. Well, anytime we eat something that's processed and then we can track it this quick and it came on so suddenly, typically it's something that we did, something we ate, something we got into in our body, said absolutely no way, no how, can't do that, won't do that, please never do that to me again. And oh, by the way, here's your spanking. The spanking is a headache and tension in the neck. The spanking is a bellyache. The spanking is high blood pressure. Your body is, not because you got to ask yourself, is high blood pressure a bad thing? No, it's a response to something. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
See how we change the way you look at blood pressure. Your body isn't bad body. Shame on you, body. Why would you do that to me, body? It's I did this. This is my response. It's like following a recipe. You followed a high blood pressure recipe, and you got just what you asked for.
Your body's working the way it's designed to.
That's right. And so it's going to take 2 or 3 days for her to regulate that. Oh, and I forgot to say, so not only is all these things happening, she's also had after she did it, she within 2 hours was vomiting. So now we can't even take the program that I originally built, and so we're having to go to something to calm the gut, chamomile, marshmallow, things of that nature, AF beta food, things to help just open the channels and get things to move.
Mm-hmm.
It took 3 days to get the blood pressure to come down. It took, and we didn't increase her meds. It's not what I do. I just supported her liver, supported her GI tract, decreased that inflammation, increased water intake, made sure the bowels were moving, and she's going to be fine. And the hope is that we learn, okay, shouldn't do tomato sauce-based things out of a can. That'd probably be the lesson in this case. Or shouldn't do MSG-laden things out of a can, unless we're truly in dire straits, like, the world shuts down and we're living on canned foods or dry goods, and that's all you have.
It's very possible.
I mean, the way
the most, at least in my lifetime,
yeah.
it's like
we never thought it would be possible until 2021. I mean, we always joke around. I mean, like these are first world problems, but I mean, the reality is we're taking more and more things for granted. Now we're starting to appreciate the fragility of life. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like I had a doctor that I was talking to last night, and she said to me, she got COVID and she's in Seattle, and it wiped her out, like almost 30 days, and I asked her, I said, I mean, like she's pretty healthy to me, like she's a pretty stout human. She teaches great. She's an amazing clinician. Has served thousands upon thousands upon thousands upon thousands upon thousands of people, like tens of thousands. And I mean, she is a great clinician. And I'm thinking to myself, how did she go down? I mean, like that'd be like the blood pressure,
Mm-hmm.
Something allowed her body to crash and burn. And I said, well, what do you think it was? And they found that we've recently found that stealth pathogens, viruses, some, and the SARS being one of them, which basically SARS is what COVID is the COVID manifestation as it progresses, but that it causes a lot of irritations in the cardiovascular system. It causes clot factors. It causes things to manifest that slow down your body's ability to move blood well. Well, viruses in general like to slow us down. They want you to be stagnant. They want you to sit and do nothing. Which is why our number one rule whenever a person gets, any virus, flu, COVID, or SARS, we want them to breathe deep, even through the pain. You don't understand. I know I don't understand, but I have to help you understand that your stagnation isn't helping, right? And so even if you can't breathe deep, we can put you in a hot cold bath. So you get a game that we've played with the flu in our house before is hot cold therapy. We have a nice hot bathtub that we sit in, get nice and warm, and then we jump in a nice cold shower, and we go right back to the hot bath and back to the ice cold shower.
What does that do?
And so it's called thermal therapy, and it stimulates heat shock proteins in your body that upregulate your body's immunological activity. It upregulates lymphatic flow. It's like a form of rebounding. Well, when you have the flu and your body's achy, you don't really want to move.
Right.
So we're artificially creating hot-cold movements and forcing blood constriction, lymph constriction, and dilation. Blood constriction, lymph constriction, and dilation. So we're allowing the warmth of the water to heat up so everything opens and flows, and then we jump in a cold system so everything constricts, and that creates movement. And it's a great way to create the necessary mobility that viruses hate. Viruses are like ant beds in your backyard. You will literally poison this one. Or last week, what I did is I took my blower while Dash and I were cutting grass, and I blew them all over. I mean, everywhere. Yeah. I mean, they were. It was a good enough little pile. I didn't think it was that long, but it left that where it suffocated the ground and the grass was kind of yellow. It wasn't dead, but it was like had been starved there.
Mm-hmm.
I blew these ants. I mean, they were. I mean, who knows where they went? I mean, my blower was like rocking that day. The next morning, Gardy, they were 2 feet over, rebuilt, the same height, and I'm like, you sorry little dogs, and I'm thinking to myself, that's infections in your body. They're ant piles. You're never getting rid of them. You're not going to get rid of viruses. You're not going to get rid of yeast. You're not going to get rid of parasites. You're not going to get rid of bacteria. They have a synergistic benefit to you as an organism, you as a human body. But your job is to manage those bugs. Our job at Living Well Clinical Nutrition Center is to help you understand managing your garden. Keeping the weeds out is an important day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month plan of attack for wellness, a plan for longevity, a plan for vitality. Who wants to be more creative? Yes, please. Who wants to be more organized? Me. Who wants to have more mental stamina, more mental energy so that we can serve greater, do greater, be more impactful whenever we're with our friends, family, and loved ones? Does anybody, can anybody say no to those things? No, everybody wants that stuff, right?
Yeah, definitely. More efficient.
And I think that without a doubt, if we can help people see the value of pruning their garden, we're going to see a much bigger, badder impact in how you navigate the rough terrain of the uncertainties of the next pandemic, or the one after that, or the one after that. At the end of the day, guess what? Strengthen your body's garden. Make sure that you have healthy crops. Make sure that you're putting in adequate vitamins, minerals, essential fatty acids. Make sure that you're evaluating what kind of fluid are you drinking? What kind of fluid are you not drinking? Had a guy come in yesterday, chiropractic patient. He has rods in his spine, and he's had them since he's been a youth for scoliosis, and he's been to many, many chiropractors, he said, because he's in pain a lot. And I started working on him, and he goes, man, I've never had anybody adjust my neck. And I'm like, what? That's so sad. Okay.
They scared too or something? Or?
I think so.
Yeah.
And I get it. I mean, when you don't know, you don't know. I remember when I was in school as a student, I referred a back pain patient to one of my mentors because I was, nervous, right? I didn't know. I was like, oh, I don't want to hurt that guy.
Yeah.
But now, man, bring it on. I'm more than confident that there's things we can do. Well, I've been working on this guy a while now, and I finally, I tell him every time he comes in he's dehydrated. I mean, because he is. I mean, I barely push on him, and he's like, whoa. He's like, and I mean, he feels pains in his body, right? And it like shoots up to his neck, behind his eye, down to his foot. I mean, he gets radiating pain just being pushing on a muscle, and that's not normal. But I tell him, hey, you're dehydrated, you need to drink more water. And he's, sucking down Monster drinks and who knows what else he's not telling me. And, well, finally, last visit, I got him. He goes, you'll never guess what I did. I said, what? He goes, I drank half a bottle of water on my way here to this appointment. And I'm like, sweet, let's see what happens. And he had an amazing adjustment. I mean, I'm telling you, it was amazing. It's like his body said, thank you, thank you, thank you. Please, can we do that again? And here's your reward. An amazing adjustment. I mean, things move that never moved before. He comes in yesterday, and he had 2 bottles of water. But interestingly, on his way, he had to stop and pee twice. And so within a couple hour window, he had to pee a couple times because he put the water in. And he's like, man, I remember a long time ago, like 10 years ago, that I could drink, a gallon of water, and I'd pee twice a day, and I'd be fine. But now, if I put a half bottle or 2 bottles of water in, I pee like a racehorse. Like I'm constantly needing to go pee. And I'm like, oh, it's simple. That's your body purging the old dirty water out and accepting of the new. When you give your body fresh water, in this case, a very dehydrated body, I'm telling you, his body's going to dump and start detoxing. That's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. Symptoms aren't always bad. They're just a response to something that you put into the chemistry program. Well, his adjustment yesterday was absolutely phenomenal. I mean, we saw rib heads move. Never seen rib heads move yet on this dude because I couldn't push, on his back because it hurt. 1, he's got rods. And, 2, you're thinking, why in the heck would you be pushing on a back with rods anyway? Because he's still breathing, right? So those ribs are still opening and closing. The spine is fixed, but the ribs are not. So we're finding a way to upregulate his neurological system because he's not big on taking supplements. He's not ready to change his diet. So biochemically, I can't go in that door. He's, not ready to do a detox, so I can't go in the detox door. But he keeps showing up for structural care because he's never been adjusted like this. He's never had his hips moved. He's never had his neck popped. He's never had his rib heads adjusted. And we're sitting here getting movements that, I mean, they're giving me goosebumps. Seriously, giving me goosebumps. I expect miracles. But I am baffled. I am amazed at wow, how much change we're getting in the spine. And why does it surprise me? Because I'm just always I stay in awe and wonder of what is possible, what people bring in, what people have been through, and what we're able to change. And I believe we're going to see more good things happen. I mean, so it doesn't matter which door we go in when we take on a care plan. Not everybody gets an adjustment at Living Well. Not everybody does emotional work at Living Well. Not everybody does biochemical work at Living Well. We find what you're willing to do, and we go to your history, your blood work, your labs. We look at, you head to foot, and we start building a plan according to what you're willing to do. As long as you're willing to play, as long as you're willing to do something, we're going to educate you. We're going to support you. We're going to love you. We're going to give you the rules of the game, things to think about. Had a gal come in yesterday. I just got a lot of stories today, I guess, but I'm excited. I mean, it's just it's new perspectives. And last week, or I think it was actually a week and a half ago, she took a program that we had put together for her, and she got a rash. Okay, and so she calls the office, and they call me, and I say, "Oh, a rash, do this." Okay, so but she goes, "Oh, I can't do the program. I'm not going to do it." Okay, so she doesn't do it. She comes in yesterday. I look at the program. She goes, "Do you think I should start the program again?" I said, "Absolutely." She goes, "Well, what if that rash comes back?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah." So we had to go back and revisit that. So I go down her list, and I'm like, "Oh, I found it." I said, "I know who caused your rash." And and again, the rash isn't a bad thing. It's a response to something we did in the chemistry set. And so, when they called me, I didn't pull up her chart. I was driving, so I just, threw an idea to help calm down the rash, because I'm thinking it's a histaminic response, it's a healing crisis, it's some sort of, die off of a bug or bacteria or excretion of chemicals or metals out of the body, and we just accelerated her detox pathways, and her detox pathways were congested, and so it came out the skin instead of the bowel. Right? So I'm like, that's acceptable. Mm-hmm. There's a rationale there. That's happened. So, but when I looked at her chart, you know how simple it was? I put her on a product called Niacin. And niacin, if anybody's familiar with, is B3, and it is sometimes when you take enough of it, it will cause a flushing. There was a radio show we did here with me, you, and Kurt one morning, and I was hoping that Kurt would get the flush. Instead, I got the flush, and I'm telling you, my system went, bonkers. And y'all were like laughing at me because my ears were turning purple and my forehead was red. I mean, I had a rash all over my body. I was tingly, and it backfired on me, And must have been April Fool's that day.
Yeah.
And but niacin can cause a flushing effect. It's like that thermal therapy I explained earlier, where I can get those arteries to expand to their max and get a release of trash and toxins. Well, that's what it was. So I said, look, if it happens again, that's the culprit. We just need to take half of it, not a full tab. Mm-hmm. We need to do half. But it won't last but 10, 15 minutes. Oh, she goes, well, if I'd have known that, I'd have been fine. I wouldn't have taken the Benadryl. Don't take the Benadryl. The goal is no drugs, no surgery. But I know we're educating patients and teaching people a new way of living, a new way of life. And so sometimes we bring our old habits in that got us sick while we start integrating these new habits, and we have to course correct, sidestep, because nothing is exact, nothing is perfect, and that's okay. And as long as you understand there's a rhyme, there's a reason, there's always, and we'll have a rationale for why we're doing what we're doing and why you experienced what you experienced. We can always slow the program down, throttle back. We don't have to thrust you into a healing crisis and you're on the couch for 3 weeks. That's not wellness. That's not what we want. Sometimes we have to be patient. Man, we can't get all the weeds out this week. When Dash and I were doing when we got into mowing grass,
blowing ants,
right? Yeah. We'd take 15 minutes to do de-weeding. We wouldn't do no more, no less. And 15 minutes over the course of 3 to 4 weeks, it takes us 15 minutes. It's not like a painstaking experience.
It'd be like all day.
That's
otherwise,
right. Otherwise,
a little bit at a time.
A little bit at a time. Mm-hmm. Over time, boom, we've got a yard that's, I don't want to say pretty, but it's not ugly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you know, because there was a time I was really into that stuff. I'm not really into it. So, man, I'm just trying to teach the boys some work ethic and getting out there and dig his hands in the dirt and mess around.
Those
right?
weeds just grow back a lot faster than anything else. The plants, the grass. I try and get out there one time a week, even if I'm like grabbing the trash can in. I'm like, oh man, let me just
grab a few.
My wife's like, what are you doing? I'm like, just give me a second. Give me a second.
I got to get at least 25 of these.
Yeah.
You know, a bucket, a 5-gallon bucket.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just pruning the immunological garden, supporting your GI tract is such an important part of what needs to be done day in and day out whenever you're taking care of your body. And so, like, when we're here on this on our show with you guys, we're always looking, what is it that you need help with? So we always want to encourage you. You can, roll back the tape through our podcast. You can look us up, Living Well Clinical Nutrition Center on podcast. You can go back on YouTube. But you can also just, if you're unsure, uncertain, if you've got something that crops up, urinary tract infections, you got colds or flus, or you got, swollen lymph nodes, you got ear wax coming out of your ears and an earache. These are things that we can support your body's drainage pathways and clean up messes that you find yourself in. We can get those ant piles and not just blow them out of there, but to cause them to not want to be in your ecosystem. We want to create an environment in your biochemistry that they aren't wanting to take full control and rule you. Remember, the Bible says we're to subdue the creepy, crawly things. So when we're looking at stealth pathogens, whether they're viral or bacterial, and these slow undermining, bugs that are just robbing you in the backside, we can come in with protocols. One of my favorite, protocols is using myrrh. Myrrh is a wonderful antimicrobial, immune-building plant or herb. Myrrh, M-Y-R-R-H. Remember the same stuff? What did they bring Jesus?
Gold, frankincense, and myrrh.
Yeah, interesting, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so frankincense and myrrh are very antimicrobial. Well, I guess if you're born in a barn. And with dirty cows and whatever other chickens and animals that might be in there, it's very likely that it wasn't the most sanitary of places. Fair?
I agree. Yeah.
I mean, even for Jesus, I mean, we wanted it to be, in the state of the art, facility with the best of sanitary conditions, but it wasn't. But isn't that just like God, to always provide us a tool in the form of plants? I just go back to solutions all around us. Why some people see them and some people don't. And I forgot Mr. Daniel's last name. It'll come to me hopefully in a second. But first name was Daniel's out of Austin, and he wrote this book, and he was talking about being in the Amazon and on basically a safari, and the guide told him that for every poison that's in this environment, there's 2 to 3 antidotes. And I just think that's interesting. He could lick the backside of a bark. He could pick up this other type of weed, plant, herb, root, and make a tea concoction out of it, make a poultice paste, do something to reverse the effects of some sort of poisonous, stinging, biting insect or, lizard or frog or something, whatever poison he finds himself in foe with, there's an antidote. So, the kings brought this frankincense and myrrh. It's just interesting the Bible references that. I mean, the gold and silver would have been what I would want it. I don't need the other stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, but Aaron, you live in a very sanitary culture. But doesn't the midwife, doesn't the doctor, doesn't your provider have sanitary tools? Don't they have sanitary, supplies to make a clean environment? Oh, yeah. Just because you didn't think about it doesn't mean it's not being used or it's not needed, right?
Right.
So, myrrh, super stellar. Artemisinin. Artemisinin is another fantastic herb for cleaning out worms out of the body. You have to do some annual or quarterly or biannual parasitic cleansing protocols. Just like we talk about 42 days a year of detoxification, we've got to get in there and clean out the bugs. But I do believe that, if we can enhance your water, if we can help you avoid the onslaught of sugar, the average American's consuming easily 150 pounds of sugar per year. Average person, 150 pounds of sugar per year. That's a lot of sugar. But if you look a little bit closer, what about the foods that convert to sugar? These things that convert to sugar, like
carbs,
grains, these bird grain basically convert to sugar and feed pathogens in our body. They feed yeast, they feed parasites, and these things can have, a full gourmet meal. So it's like every time you take in an exuberant amount of sugar, or if you now start adulterating sugar, meaning we process it, we heat treat it, we call it now corn syrup or high fructose corn syrup, and we mega adulterate it and mega change it to being now an addictive chemical that you're absolutely craving. It's chemically designed for you to want more and never get enough of it. You never lose the law of diminishing returns. And if you can't control those sugars and these bugs keep getting fed, guess what winds up happening? They take over the roost. They're just doing their job. Remember, the blood pressure is not the problem. It's a symptom of something going on in the body that you need to pay attention to. It's a check engine light. Having an overrunning amount of parasites in your brain is going to give you brain fog. It's going to give you headaches. It's going to give you sinus trouble. Having, earwax coming out your ears, it's a yeast infection. Just because you don't have itchy ears or itchy skin or, the traditional signs and symptoms of yeast infection doesn't mean you don't have yeast. It's running rampant because we're over-consuming sugars in our body and in our diets, and we're putting too much garbage in. And so we've got to be mindful of it. But, I'm not sitting here telling you have to, avoid sugar. Yes, you need to cut back. Yes, you need to change the type. Yes, you need to eat cleaner carbs. Jennifer and I and the clinicians at my office, we talk about this. There's 999 terrible carbohydrates out there. There's 7 good carbohydrates, right?
Yeah.
And it's not that carbs are bad, but we make a case that, God designed essential amino acids. What does essential mean?
I think it means you need it.
You need it.
You have to have it.
And you get amino acids from protein, right? There's this thing called essential fatty acids, which means what?
You have to have those.
You have to have it. You need it. And so we have to get good, healthy fats in our diet to run healthy processes in the body. Guess what there's not an essential of? There's no such thing as essential carbohydrate. That's kind of wild, isn't it? Doesn't mean that we can't benefit from from carbs. It just means that we need to be mindful that if your plate is predominantly starches and carbs, and those carbs that you're choosing are heavily processed, and they have tons of preservatives on them or neurological enhancers like MSG, monosodium glutamate, or whatever else they throw in there, and then it's cooked in terrible oil that slows down its ability to be processed in the body, and it has time now to ferment and percolate and rot in your system. Yes, it should have made you quiver. It looked like you quivered. Did you just
a little
quiver?
bit? I did.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to scare
that.
you. Yeah, no rottingness inside the bones, inside the body. That's not good. And so we know we have to not feed these bugs at the level we're feeding. We've got to be willing to observe what we're eating, and you cannot expect what you don't inspect. We've got to make sure we look at your food intake. So track a food log. See how much water you drink. Because people say to me all the time, "Oh, I drink plenty of water." Do you now? How much water do you drink? I don't know, a lot. What's a lot? I don't know. It's just it's an absorbent amount. What's an absorbent amount? Track it. See how much an absorbent amount is. And a lot of times people come in and say, "Man, I'm blown away. 32 ounces. That's it." That's right. That's it. Because my paperwork says 1 liter per 50 pounds of body weight. I want you if you're a $150, that's how much? It's 96 ounces. We've got to make sure that we have adequate amount of water coming into the system. And then, so that's just 2 products, Gardy, that we can use. What about angiographis, another powerful antimicrobial, immune upregulating herbal that works like it's amazing leveraging these tools. We have a product called Gut Flora that we used to have. Actually, we don't have it anymore. It's the plant in Australia that was able to manufacture these herbs that went into this product burned. And so we're praying and hoping that we can get that product back. But it's interesting that this product, it had angiographis in it, and as one of the antimicrobials, and it's just phenomenal to see how efficient it was at cleaning up excess bacterial, viral, parasitic, fungal type infections in the GI tract. And we know that 100% of every disease that you ever see, study about, hear about, experience yourself, or watch somebody go through was started or has started in your GI tract. Your gut lining has been attacked and inflamed, and that rotting, percolating, nasty sits in there, and it takes root and feeds, and then you continue to feed the bugs around it to the point where they turn into an army, and now they start running the roost, and they start causing all kinds of intestinal irritations, and that intestinal irritation alters your absorption rate. You're not now absorbing food at an adequate level, so now you're experiencing nutritional deficiencies even though you're eating, and then you're compounding that nutritional deficiency with toxicity because now you've got this rotting carcass of trash in your body that you can't get rid of. So, I'm trying to paint this picture for you to understand, even though you can't see it. Like, we don't look like we're laden with infection right now, do we?
No.
But what if? What if it's stealth pathogen, right? So just because your blood work is clear, pathologically, at your annual exam, you need to bring it to Living Well Clinical Nutrition Center. Let us look at it with you. Let us go through it with our set of eyes, get our perspective on it. Maybe, maybe not. Maybe we see something, maybe we don't. That's okay. But wouldn't you rather know and have somebody else's expertise instead of just the standard, hey, come back when you're really sick and then I'll help you? How about let's never get sick, and let's make sure that we evaluate you from head to foot, inside and out. We want to do what we can do to ask you the right questions, as many questions as possible. We take an amazing history at our office. I'm so proud of the work we do and taking the time to listen to the stories. And I know that we will hear of the pathogens that are attacking you, these stealth little boogers that are not showing up in your blood, but definitely manifesting nonetheless. And we will then take you down a road of sequentially upregulating your immunity so that you're always ready for what's the fear of the unknown, or the next big thing, or the average thing coming along, right? Mm-hmm. So when so-and-so sneezes on you, you don't go, oh my gosh, and you freak out. Now, I freak out anyway, just because it's kind of weird to be spit on. But at the end of the day, I mean, at least we're not llamas and intentionally spit on people. Mm-hmm. I think they do, don't they?
I don't know if they do it on purpose or not, but it seems like it.
Yeah, it seems like it. Yeah. So then, and I know we're wrapping up here, but I just wanted to go through a couple more, see if I got time. I do. Yeah, it looks like we're good. And so remember, guys, you can ask questions live for those that are tuning in live. Or you can email questions to our office, info@justlivewell.com, and we will answer those questions next week on air. So if you have questions that you went back and you listened to the podcast and or the YouTube, and you want to ask a question and you want us to answer it next week because you're a regular follower, you're a regular sharer of the good news of health and wellness to all your friends, family, and loved ones, which we deeply appreciate and are grateful for. And we ask you to continue to do that and support us that way, because people need this information, Gardy. They really do. There's so much garbage information out there, and there's so much negligence, and there's so many people suffering needlessly. We want to give people good tools. So, stealth pathogen support. We're still talking about this. Echinacea is another powerful, powerful blood builder, immunological upregulator, neurological, synaptic stimulator of goodness in your body. Echinacea, some people say, oh, you can only take it while you're sick. No. You want to take it before you get sick. That means you take it ongoing, small, low doses all the time to make sure that your body's getting those acrylamides and upregulating those specific tissues that your body needs. The beautiful thing about a lot of the herbal programs that we build for people is you don't have to know exactly what you're doing. They know what they're doing. Your body knows how to use myrrh, artemisinin, angiographis, echinacea in your body. It knows how to take those things, break them down into their fundamental parts, and then reformulate them into things that modulate, that upregulate, that stimulate your immunity to be better, to be more aware of its surroundings. Hey, that guy's a counterfeit. Hey, that guy doesn't belong. Hey, that guy looks suspicious. It's going to go do cross-checks and references to make sure that there's no foreign bodies living inside of your vessel. Praise be to the Lord. Isn't that cool?
Mm-hmm.
Again, it goes back to what I was telling you. For every poison out there that you're exposed to or have currently in your body, there's antidotes. You just got to be willing to investigate. And we are a resource for you at Living Well. We want to be your number one resource for all your health and wellness needs. We want to give you tools in order to maximize your health. We want to give you tools to help you see things that you can control. Because if you can name a thing, Aristotle said, you can control a thing. We want to help you control the environment. When you control the environment, you're going to have a pretty yard, a pretty garden. You're going to have healthy organs and healthy crops. Astragalus complex, another fantastic, amazing. I use this in the viral department. You could use it antimicrobially for bacterial types issues as well. The body loves astragalus in antiviral support. And so the fundamentals of this product break down, and your body becomes a viral fighter. It goes after different types of viral patterns that you have. Ones that are obvious because you got symptoms, and ones that maybe are stealth pathogen that are not, or things that you've had in the past. I'm discovering just through continued research and thinking of even myself. 2 years ago, I'm looking at some pictures, and I remembered my September rash. I had this rash. My arm, it literally ate practically my whole arm off. I had it wrapped, and I was trying to figure out what's going on. I mean, I had these ulcers-looking things all over my armpit and all the way down to my ribs, and I'm just like, what in Tar Heels is my body doing? I mean, I can't. My diet was what I would call on point. At that point, I was on about, in the 40-ish days of a no sugar diet. I had even the spices, if it had any kind of sugar, it didn't come in my mouth. And I couldn't figure out what I'd done. My wife had given me a little, essential oil rubbed down the night before, some peppermint oil and some citrus oils. And I was like, that's the only thing I did. But the next day, something went haywire. And I was talking to a buddy, and he started asking me questions. I love histories, and they start asking you these questions and getting you thinking. And we came to conclusion it was a virus. It was probably some sort of like a herpes virus coming out of my armpit and out of my limb. It was all clogged up in the limb on the side. Why did my body store it over there? Well, because it's not around my heart. Praise God. It's not stuck in my liver. But my body wasn't ready to deal with it. It took me starving out yeast, it starving out bugs for those things to finally die off, and then that virus went and just exploded, and biofilm started popping, and things started moving too quick, and my body didn't have the exit strategies in place to get rid of it, so it came right out of my skin. Well, I know that's what it has to be what it was, because I went to see a guy who had 30-plus years of experience in dermatology, and he looked at me like I had two heads. He goes, I've never seen anything like that. That's not good whenever you got a guy that's been
seeing
this.
Expert. Yeah.
The expert, and he's got nothing,
Yeah.
The only thing he offered me was some antibiotics, a steroid, and some topical creams. Well, thanks, but no thanks. I'm not going to destroy my microbiome. I believe this is self-limiting. My blood work is darn perfect. I brought it to him. It wasn't perfect. It just wasn't pathological. Let me just back up. Because when I went back and looked at the blood work, I go, oh my gosh, my white blood cells were, 5.4. They're under that 6 mark. And I'm like, oh. man, why didn't my brain kick? Because I was trying to be, my own doctor. And that, what do I always say? If you try to be your own doctor, you'll find yourself a fool for a patient and a fool for a doctor. And so you can't, you're too emotionally involved with you, So I did get through it, but it was nice to reflect and see, oh, that's what that was. So the next time I see something crazy like that, I've got this story of confidence that, one, it's self-limiting. Most pathogens, guys, most things that you find yourself dealing with, stealth pathogen or acute pathogen, bacterial, viral, parasitic, fungal, are self-limiting. Your body will get a handle on it. But if you use these tools, you will accelerate the healing response. You will give your body support that it needs, and will continue to need, because you've got to continually what? Till the garden. You got to prune the crops. You got to get out there and pluck the weeds.
Manage the bugs.
Manage the bugs, And that's what we're doing at Living Well Clinical Nutrition Center. We're teaching you the tools. And today we just were sharing some tools in the stealth pathogen world on like myrrh, artemisinin, angiographis, echinacea, astragalus. And that is a process that you could run in your own body every month. You could take 1 month, run one product. You could take and come in and let us build you a specific protocol where you leverage these products a couple days out of the week and then switch to something else. A couple days out of the week, switch to something else. We can listen to your body and see if you're even a candidate for this type of stuff. Sometimes you should do general maintenance. Sometimes if you're having symptom patterns that you weren't genetically born with, you need to come in. We need to get in there, help you, serve you to the best of possible ability that you deserve. So this is Living Well Clinical Nutrition Center. As usual, we love sharing this wonderful information with you. And every week we do this from 9 to 10 live, and we do this on a podcast and on YouTube. So just look us up, Living Well Clinical Nutrition Center. Share us, like us, support us in any way you can, and visit our website, justlivewell.com, or call us at 281-554-8600 and be a part of what Living Well Clinical Nutrition Center is doing. We know that we can help you take your health onward, upward, goodward, and Godward, and we'll always do it with a smile and help you, support you, and love you all the way through. God bless you.
This is KHEA Radio 99.5 FM. Go subscribe to the Living Well Clinical Nutrition Center podcast. And it's available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Make sure you go and listen to the one. It'll be today's will be up here in a little bit, and then you can go back and listen to all of them. So thank you, Dr. Chapa.